You're listening to Lucky Hawk Talks, the show where Lucky Hawk talks. Now here's your host, Lucky Hawk.
Hello and welcome to a classic edition of Lucky Hawk Talks. I'm your host, Lucky Hawk, and today's episode comes all the way from 2014. You may have seen our guest in The Hunger Games, Blue Mountain State, Fast and the Furious 10, and most recently as Jack Reacher in the Amazon Prime original Reacher. I first came to know him in Smallville as Aquaman. Now, I'm a huge Aquaman dork. I have way more Aquaman merchandise than I would care to admit. So it was a thrill to speak with the first ever live action portrayal of Aquaman. Obviously, Alan has kind of blown up since this conversation, but it was fun to talk about kind of being a nerdy superhero, I guess. You know, what do people think? Aquaman's nerdy. He's awesome. Anyway, so sit back, listen up, try to learn something. Now, how did you first get into show business?
That's a good question. Well, I started in this business 9 years ago. I was in the music business. I was producing and songwriting, sort of learning the craft, and I had auditioned for American Idol season 3. Some friends had said, they thought I'd be good for the show. I hadn't seen it, so I watched a few episodes and I decided to try out, and I made it to the semifinals in LA. So that was my first time coming out to LA, and I just really liked the energy of the town, really, the people that were out here, and I decided it would be a good place for me, and I moved out, still working on music, and I had a print agent at the time, and I found out he was sending guys out, these male models out on auditions on the side, and like managing people on the side. And I approached him about it, and I said, let's just see if we can make some extra money auditioning. I'll give it a shot. And like the first 3 things I went out on, I booked. One was the body image of Beowulf. So I was doing the motion capture of Beowulf in Zemeckis' film. Another was a horror film that was terrible called The Butcher, and a recurring role on Smallville is Aquaman. So once that had kind of been set in motion within just a few weeks of moving out to LA, I just kind of decided to keep rolling with it.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned you had a memorable appearance on the 3rd season of American Idol. You sort of carried Paula Abdul away. Now, you obviously didn't win, but your appearance, you were beaming with personality in it. And what kind of impact did that appearance have on your early career?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun on the show, and Paula was definitely a fan, which definitely helped. But I would say that it just opened a lot of doors. I mean, the show's still big. Obviously, it's got its own legacy now at this point. But at that point in time, it was the biggest show on television. So for me to have spent a few weeks on, making an appearance on that show, it opened a lot of doors. And when most people wouldn't have a reason for, a manager to pick up the phone, or for a casting director to let somebody in the room, I had entree because of that. And I just tried to capitalize on that exposure and turn it into something else.
Now, you also mentioned in 2005 you went on to the hit Smallville as Aquaman, and I'm admittedly a huge Aquaman fan personally. Not too many people are, but what did you think when the role came your way about having to be Aquaman?
I think I underestimated the audience and how important that role was to people. I mean, for me, I was looking at it as the best opportunity I'd had yet to work in TV, and I thought it was a really cool role, and I felt very right for it. Obviously, I was, but I didn't grow up with comics. and I didn't grow up like watching a lot of superheroes and stuff, so I had to educate myself about the world. So I read as many comic books as I could to get an understanding of the character and his world, and I think since then, looking, in hindsight, I look back and I realized how important portraying that character was to people, because it just hasn't been done a lot in TV or film, and that it would create kind of a really fun, lasting legacy for me, because people still to this day, mention that role, and the fact that I'm one of the few to have portrayed Aquaman live action. So, I think I underestimated how important that role was to people, and I definitely did my homework, but yeah, looking back, I think it was it was an opportunity to turn into something great.
Now, you said that you have people, say that they love the role, but for some reason, Aquaman has become sort of a punchline in the comic community. Do you ever get any flack from people?
Yeah. I guess I'm speaking to the diehard fans who actually wanted to see Aquaman on the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other 90% of people think that Aquaman's super lame and has the lamest superpowers, and believe me, I hear it all the time. Not so much anymore, because I've fortunately distracted people with some other roles, but yeah, for a long time there, it was I was sort of the butt of a lot of jokes, and I seem to remember certain articles, like the first ever sort of trashy magazine article that came out about me had to do with Aquaman, and it was I think it was comparing me to Vincent Chase's character on Entourage. He was the better Aquaman, and it was kind of a joke, but I mean, yeah, I realized pretty quickly that it was both, the best opportunity that I'd had to be a part of something like that in the business, and also the fodder for many jokes.
You also voiced Aquaman in an animated movie, Justice League New Frontier, right?
You know what, man? I've actually talked about this with people before. I don't know if they used my image or likeness and credited me with this, but I didn't participate in that I'm aware of.
It just got tagged on to you for some reason.
I think I just got tagged on. I don't know. I still haven't seen it, so I don't know what use of me, if any. But I've said that publicly, and I've still
still here,
kind of a part of it. So I don't quite know what the story is there.
In addition to the dramatic roles, you've also done many comedic characters, namely your role as Lestat on Blue Mountain State. Now, the show was canceled back in 2011, but you guys are trying to turn it into a movie with the Kickstarter.
Right.
What can you tell me about that?
Man, golly, I could write a book about my experience with this show, and what's proceeded to follow the cancellation. But I guess just in a nutshell, the show was on Spike TV. It was their first original scripted comedy, and that's not only is that a small network anyway, as it is, they didn't have a foundation for scripted shows, so nobody really knew that the show was on. And still, without the support of a network that people went to for scripted content, and without the support of an advertising budget, we were still competing heavily in a lot of markets. We were number one in the 18 to 35 male demographic, which is the most sought after demographic for advertisers. We were carrying over 1 million viewers an episode live for many of our episodes. Pretty unprecedented stuff. And the fact that it was canceled, I think, is just a testament to how challenging that endeavor was for Spike, being the size of the network that they were. But I think it pointed to the fact that there was an audience there. Since then, since its cancellation, it went to Spike, and Lionsgate, made a streaming deal with Spike. So we ended up on Netflix. Excuse me. So we went to Netflix, and millions of people around the world were discovering the show, falling in love with it, and then finding out the same day that it was canceled. And and new episodes weren't being made. A lot of people still think that Netflix created the show and that it's a Netflix show. So, anyway, I and some other people still felt like there was an audience, so I started pursuing getting the rights from Lionsgate, and I just hassled them for 9 months until I finally got a hold of the film rights, and it felt like a way for me to continue the story. I think a lot of fans agree, and we hear from hundreds daily for years and we've heard for years that people want more, and they felt like it should have continued. And so with the models that we have today, we have the opportunity to provide them that, and it just took some doing on our end to get it together and organize that effort. But it seemed like the best way to continue to tell our story. And in fact, I think film is a better medium for our brand anyway, because it's sort of like, the Hangover movies. I mean, if that was on TV, it just wouldn't quite be the same. I think we were born to live maybe in like an R-rated comedy realm, like the American Pies, of now yesteryear. But so that's what we're trying to do. We had looked at all options, and we were actually involved with some investors early on. But as a lot of people talk about these days, creatively, you're giving away everything. You're giving away your creative license. You're giving away ownership of the brand, really, to somebody else who's got their own agenda and their own vision for this project. And it was just going a direction that was like not, in my opinion, healthy for the brand, and I think would maybe reach new markets internationally, domestically, but I think the fans wouldn't enjoy it because they wouldn't recognize the show. The characters wouldn't be the same. It was just not the right way to go. So I think a Kickstarter campaign where we can retain the creative control to be able to make the kind of movie that we know how to make, and create the content that we did so well for 3 seasons, 39 episodes. We think we know how to do that, and we've proven that. And if we're just serving a love letter to the fan, then so be it. We're fine with that. If it catches on and it turns into a huge comedy franchise, then great. I mean, we want to be able to turn it into something that we feel it was meant to be. But this is an opportunity for us just to make it, and whatever happens with it afterwards happens with it. But we love making this show and this content, and we feel like the fans love it. Obviously, they've proven their support by rallying around us. So there is an audience there, and we just want to continue making the best comedy that we can, and we feel like this is the way that we can do that.
Are you you guys are getting close? Are you surprised at the reaction the Kickstarter's gotten?
I wouldn't say I'm surprised. I mean, I don't think I would have gone forward with all the effort to get the rights and to put the campaign together, all the planning and the investment, financially, the time, energy. I don't think I would have done that, or we, I should say, Rovansky and Eric Faulkner, my producing partners on this, who created the show. If we didn't feel like we were going to run a successful campaign, so I think we all expected to run a successful campaign. I didn't think that it was going to be as challenging as it was, and time-consuming, and just such a huge investment. I mean, it's been the most draining and hard, challenging, and rewarding thing that I've ever done. We are close. It's pretty clear to us that we're going to reach our goal. Historically, the metrics prove that the last 5 days are always the biggest, and the last day being bigger than any other day. We did 225,000 on our first day, so we're hoping for a large finish that takes us past our goal and allows us to do more in this film. But I would say that, yes, I have been surprised by the reaction of media and businesses watching this campaign. Public funding has created its own sort of awareness and its own form of marketing these days. I mean, when I was talking to investors about raising money for the film, nobody in the world knew, nor would ever find out that this movie was being made until after it would have been shot. But now, millions and millions of people are aware of this campaign and have viewed our sites, have talked about it. Several, tens of thousands or 15,000 so far have actually contributed, but there's been a lot of support and the outreach from businessmen, entrepreneurs, investors, distribution companies, businesses interested in product placement. I mean, the visibility that this has had is kind of been overwhelming in a good way, and we've been, we've just been doing our best to handle that and continue to promote the campaign. But it's had amazing exposure, and I think it's done wonders for the brand. And I think what we'll be able to do with all the interest that we've had is just continue to build this into what we feel it could be.
Mm-hmm. Last year, you starred in the biggest film of the season, The Hunger Games: Catch a Fire. I think that did nearly $1 billion. I think it did.
Yeah, just a small little chunk of change.
Yeah. What was that experience like? I mean, that had to be crazy.
Wow, it was surreal to say the least. I hate that word. I feel like it's cliche anytime somebody's had a cool experience, but I really don't know how to describe being a part of something that big. I mean, I was a fan of the books before it was ever there was ever a movie deal in the works. So I was always a fan of the series, and obviously seeing how huge the first film got, knowing that there was some roles in the second film that I'd be right for was interesting, and we were definitely keeping our finger on the pulse of what was going on there. Moving from having an opportunity to go in and read for that role and then being a part of that franchise, it's such a cool experience, and I feel so honored to be a part of something that just spans the world. I mean, it's everybody's aware of this, and most people have seen the movie or read the books. It's just to be a part of something that big. It's really hard to describe. Seeing, we did some press tour, before the film came out, and getting a chance to see how large the fan base is and what that outreach was like. I've never really been a part of anything that huge, so it was, even though my role wasn't like a huge role, I mean, just to be a part of it was pretty amazing and overwhelming at times. But I've enjoyed that experience immensely.
Well, speaking of huge movies and huge roles, you are starring as Raphael.
Yes.
In the upcoming Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. And, the Turtles fan base is rabid, and they've been skeptical of the film since it was first announced. Now, what can you tell fans? Can you tell fans anything to let them know?
I can talk about,
No, I know you can't give, any huge details, obviously, but...
Yeah, but I'm aware of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
From the early leaked scripts where, it's like an alien iteration of this story, less true to the origin story, and people thinking the entire time that that's what this film is going to be about, and taking a lot of flack for that. That's been sort of at the forefront of my mind while we're working on this, knowing that people aren't aware of what we're actually shooting, and taking a lot of flack along the way. Internet's a dangerous place because, people believe what they read, and they cling to it as truth, and they can assault you with that as if it were real. And so, it's been frustrating in the sense that, like, people kind of are already dogging the movie. They've been dogging it since before it was in production. I mean, they've already written it off, as a Michael Bay failure. But what people don't know is that this story is actually really great. And I think, having grown up with it myself, I think we've honored, the origin story and those diehard fans that want to see the best of what the Turtles have to offer. And it is incredible to see the attention that this film is getting. I mean, I think we set a record for trailer views the first week that the trailer was released. 31 million views in a week. I mean, just for the trailer. I mean, it's insane. People want to see the Turtles. They want to see what they look like. They want to connect with them. They want to see that world. And you're right, there's a huge fan base. The other thing is, once that trailer was released, a lot of people were really unhappy with the way that they looked, complaining that they didn't look like, the turtles in the film or some of the comics, that grown up with. They're more kind of a humanized version. And, I can't say a lot about that because the technology is pretty advanced and protected. But I can say that I'm pretty certain that there's a really good reason why they look the way that they do. And in order for us to be able to really bring these turtles to life with the technology that we have in a way that's never been done before, which is trying to capture the nuances of a human performance and copy and paste that onto a turtle, there was no other way to do it than to humanize their face a little bit, because the traditional turtles' mouths couldn't be translated into sort of that human DNA. So there's no way to make that performance translate. And what we're trying to do is to create a truer, a more real life performance. So the look has to do with the fact that we're trying to get the most nuanced human performance possible, which is what somebody's going to relate to when they feel like these guys are a living, breathing thing. And this is what had to be done. And I think people, once they connect with the characters and they see, how real that experience is, I think all will be forgiven. For those diehard fans that are frustrated that they look different. But honestly, I'm proud of everything that I've done. I'm proud of the product that's being put out there. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think a lot of people are really going to enjoy it.
Raphael was a huge part of the original 90s film plot. Because it really did have the most character development in that film. What do you think has been the biggest difference between that character and your portrayal?
I mean, in a lot of ways, it's still the same character. I mean, he's still the angry hothead who's he'd rather take action than think about the implications of that action. I mean, so in a lot of ways, I mean, we are still telling a lot of the same story. I think what we tried to do was to reach deeper and find other layers to decide, the dimensions of these characters, so they're not so one note. I mean, I think in the past, everybody sort of plays caricature, like a one dimension of humanity in a sense, and he was always like the angry hothead. And I just think that like the individuality and the depth of Raph and all the turtles in this story is much richer, and so that's really something that we as actors focused on, and I think it's supported by the technology that's helping to bring that story to life, and the script that we ended up working with ultimately. But it's still a fun action adventure movie, but there's a lot of heart and truth to the character that I think hasn't really been expressed before on film, I think.
Mm-hmm. Other than Turtles and, the Blue Mountain State movie, what else do you have lined up?
Definitely busy with the BMS movie right now. Producing that is obviously time-consuming. I have another film coming out in 2015 called The Wedding Ringer. It's a Kevin Hart, Josh Gad comedy where it's a wedding comedy, basically, about a guy who hires a motley crew of groomsmen to help him create the perfect wedding, because he's kind of a friendless loser. So it's a really funny premise, and just what I've seen of the film already, early cuts, it's absolutely hysterical. So it's going to be a great. I think it's going to be a great comedy in 2015. So that's a little ways down the road. I also just shot my first music video. Harkening back to my music days, I've sort of been out of that business for a long time, and I've always loved songwriting. It's something that I kind of have to do as a creative outlet because it's just a need. I have to express the song ideas that I have, and even if it's just for myself, even if nobody ever hears this. So for a long time I've done that, I decided actually while shooting Catching Fire to start sort of just releasing songs on SoundCloud, like little poorly produced acoustic songs that I just had written and recorded in my trailer, on set. Just always looking for some creative outlet, and I figured maybe some of my fans would want to hear something else that I do, and if they like it, great. If not, oh well. And that actually turned into something really interesting because some producers in LA that followed me from some of my work in TV heard my writing and my singing and all that, whatever, and they loved my music, and so they were like, "You have to come in and start writing for us." And so I started, I started writing at labels around LA, and I basically would just leave songs on the catalogs for artists, and it was just a lot of fun, and sort of developed into like a really fun second career / hobby. When I wasn't working, I would go do that, and most recently, maybe a month ago, I was in a studio recording a song, and it's a really cool song, sort of like One Republic's Apologize, like in that vein. And I had this idea, because of all the attention that BMS has been getting and my involvement with that, I had an idea for a song called Mojito, which my character, Bad Castle, is sort of synonymous with. This idea was like a funny sort of club track, like Gangnam Style, or the What Did the Fox Say, or the Selfie song, like one of those tracks that sounds great and is addictive and you can play in a club, but is all about mojitos. And so after we recorded this song, we in the studio, I was getting ready to leave, and I just pitched the producers this idea, and I was like, "You guys like the idea? I don't know if you like the idea. If you want to do this, it's a little, you guys might think it's cheesy. I think it's funny, but they flipped out for it, and they were like, "You're not leaving. Order some dinner. You're staying here." And we worked on that thing until like 2 a.m, and I left at 2 a.m. They stayed till 7. But we had by 7 o'clock the next morning, we had this song called Mojito, and I played it for a few people, and everybody who heard it flipped out. And I had somebody who wanted to help me shoot a music video, so they co-produced a music video with me, and we, within 3 weeks from inception of the idea, we were wrapping on the music video for this project. And I actually just saw the what's probably the final cut of the music video this morning. So we're going to be releasing this thing soon on all platforms, and I'm so excited to be able to put this out there, because I think it really captures all the things that I love. It's got a sense of humor. It's got a really, really great quality to the music. It's something that everybody's going to be able to enjoy. And it's funny, and it's an opportunity for me to write and put my music out. So it's like all my worlds colliding in this one perfect little song called Mojito, and I'm really excited to put that out there. So I've been working really hard on that as well.
There you have it, guys. Alan Ritchson. With recent news, I think they should make him Aquaman again. I mean, he's ripped now. He would dwarf his previous performance. Anyway, Blue Mountain State: The Rise of Thad Land did get created. It was funded, and you can actually stream it for free on both Tubi and the Roku channel. So go check that out. If you like this interview, you want more of this, please let me know in the comments. Please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you want more interviews in written format, please visit my Amazon author page at amazon.com/authors/LuckyHawk. It's free if you have Kindle Unlimited. If you don't have Kindle Unlimited, each is only 99 cents. So I'm Lucky Hawk. That's it for me. Take care.